Recording in progress.
Jai Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Devasesha Sunyavadi Astyacharya Shakarine Bolo Namaste Saraswati Devi Devasesha Sunyavadi Astyacharya Shakarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Follow Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Baba Vivaradhari Gopijana Balaba Yasoda Nandana Braja Janarandana Yasoda Nandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Gauranga Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Nityananda Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Bolo Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama oh, oh, oh. Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Nitai Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Vrinda Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gauranga Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Gauranga, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Gaura Premanandi, Hare Hare Bo, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai. Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Madhava ki jai. Shri Kartika Ratha ki jai. Shri Damodara Masa ki jai. Shri Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Tirobha Mahotsava ki jai. Gaura Premanande Harinam Sankirtanam ki jai. Brihatmananga ki jai. Gauranga. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa sindhubhyascha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So welcome everybody on this wonderful morning, month of Kartik. A few more days to go. Maybe today or tomorrow you begin Bhishma Panchaka. I don't know what your calendar is. We start tomorrow here in France. Well, we never really celebrated Bhishma Panchaka during Srila Prabhupada's time. In fact, I don't think we ever heard of it. It has become a little bit of an extra, you could say, extra boost in the month of Kartik for some devotees. But Srila Prabhupada said, for a devotee, every day of our life is Kartik. Every day, because a devotee is worshipping Krishna every day and following regulated principles and chanting the holy name of Krishna. So for a devotee, I'm trying to spread the glories of Krishna through wonderful transcendental pastimes, sankirtan pastimes. And Prabhupada, I was reading the other day, Srila Prabhupada was saying, Rameshwar one time, Prabhu, was comparing their sankirtan to the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya when he would be dancing in the house of Srivas Thakur or on the street, dancing and chanting. He also compared it to the Rasa Lila of Krishna. And Prabhupada wrote back and said, Rameshwar is correct. This Sankirtan movement is indeed an eternal pastime, an internal pastime of the Lord, which goes on eternally. And the devotees who are participating now, although we may have evolved or realized this truth, the truth nonetheless remains. We just have to wake up and realize we are in the eternal pastimes of the Lord when we're on Harinam Sankirtan, or when we're engaged in loving devotional service to the Lord, preparing wonderful dishes. In fact, the most, in one sense, at least in Vrindavan, it's a fact that the devotees, I don't know if they still do, but they used to sing the Gopi Gita during this month of Kartik. Someone came up with this idea, and it's nice to always recite the Bhagavatam. Not necessary to do that, but that's a nice thing to do. And in that Gopi Gita, there is one verse which stands out like a crown jewel or something. It's such a beautiful verse, which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced to his heart and embraced King Prataparudra, dancing in ecstasy when the king recited this verse. The Lord could maintain his sobriety no longer. Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavibiriditam kalamashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatatam Bhuvi Vinantiye Puri Dujanaha. This verse spoken, sung by Srimati Radharani in intense separation of her life and soul, where she describes how topics spoken by or about Krishna are the only relief for those suffering in this world. And how much suffering there is today, we can't imagine a few years ago being subjected to the situation which we are, to certain different degrees, of course, which we are facing today. Obligatory vaccinations, masks, social distancing, all kinds of restrictions in our movements, etc. So many other side effects there. It's the material welcome to the material world. Why are these things going on? As Krishna is trying to wake us up. Don't depend. Don't become, over, you can say, lethargic or take it for granted that it's going to be like this. Kali Yuga has hardly begun. Can we imagine what it's going to be like in hundreds and thousands of years' time? We can hardly imagine. Such radical changes are taking place in various areas. But one thing remains clear. This is all allowed to happen by the Lord as a very wake-up call. We just go along as if nothing's happening sometimes. Just meandering on our path, not taking it seriously. It's time to become serious about Krishna consciousness before it's too late. Not only for our own salvation, but for the whole world. There is no other vaccine in this world other than the pure sound of the holy name. Everything else is just another form of passing the karmic reaction from one shoulder to the next, that's all. You may be protected, don't worry. You may be protected from coronavirus or not, I don't know. But we're not protected from our karma. People may think, now I'm safe, but don't worry. There's plenty of other ways to suffer and die. Get old or end up in hospital. It's a complete illusion that we think we can overcome this by certain adjustments of this world. It's just replacing it with something else, that's all. The death rate is exactly the same as it was before. It's 100%, whether it's this year or next. And even the annual death rate is no different since the pandemic started. It just goes on. Either you die by this or you die by that. We don't necessarily make our choices, but it looks like it. And the only relief, the only panacea for those suffering is to hear topics concerning Krishna, spoken by him or about him. And Radharani goes on to say that those devotees, those persons who are spreading these glorifications of the Lord throughout the universe, they are the greatest welfare workers. There is no one more dear than, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, no one more dear than one who spreads this message. Nobody. This is the greatest service to human society, to chant the holy names of the Lord and to distribute the message of Krishna consciousness to others. Whatever form it takes, whether it's books or prasadam or some other sankirtan, chanting the holy names, somehow or another, connecting others to Krishna with centers and temples, whatever. Somehow or another, this is the greatest service and the most dear service to Radharani. If we want to have the mercy of Krishna, especially this month, the month of Radharani, this month is Kartik, the name of Radha, very special month. So if we want to get her mercy, try to be a little instrument to share Krishna consciousness with others. There are people waiting everywhere for this message of Krishna. Everywhere you go, people are, they don't know it. Some people do. I met one girl on Sankirtan yesterday. I was trying to distribute books. And this one young lady, half French, half American, Father was from America, mother from France. She's living in France. And she'd never heard of us before. But many years of book distribution, I can't remember coming across somebody who was more tuned in to whatever little I was able to share with her. It was just like waking up from a dream or something in her life. It was just, everything just fitted for her. She gave everything and took everything she could. The people are there. They're just waiting. All we have to do is be a peon to pass the message to them. So many persons are there. So in that vein, the topics concerning Krishna or spoken by Krishna or about Krishna are the only panacea, the only relief. Nivrittatarshir upagiyamanad bhavoshri chotra manobiramat uttama gunanavadat. This wonderful verse spoken in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. Maharaj, I think, speaks this verse. Nivrittatarshir upagiyamanad. Messages, topics concerning Krishna, spoken by those who are Nivritta Trishna. Nivritta Trishna means those who have no material motivation. Some people speak to get recognition. Some people speak to get a result. Some people speak to be praised, to make money, or whatever it is, some material motivation, or to even gain heavenly delights, or liberation, or freedom from karma, or something like this. These are all externals. They are self-centered motivations. They are obstacles on the path of pure devotion. Pure devotee has anyabilasatarshanyam jnana kamadyanavatam. He has no desire for anything other than the pleasure of Krishna. He's not even interested in reverential devotional service, as we hear from the Damodara Lila. Not even going to Vaikuntha, to speak of anything else. Simply loving, pure, spontaneous, loving devotional service, because that's the nature of the life of the soul. Simply living for Krishna's pleasure. This devotional service is very rare. When we have the opportunity to hear from such a soul, such an eternal associate of the Lord, a parishad, when we get that opportunity, Nivrittatrishna, Nivrittatarshir upagiyamanat, and we get that chance to hear these topics. Bhavoshiti. Oshiti means medicine. Bhava means the ocean of birth and death, basically speaking. The medicine to cure us or to release us from the ocean of birth and death. Bhavoshiti chota manobiramat. Our mind absorbed in hearing those pastimes. It's the medicine to cure, cleanse our minds of all dirty things. Chetodarpana marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvarpanam. Cleanses the mind or the heart of all dirty things. Kutama shloka, topics concerning Krishna, verses, slokas, prayers, whatever. Glorifying Krishna. This is the medicine. It's like Lord Chaitanya has brought Enecheo Shari Maya Nashi Baro Lagi. He's brought the medicine. Maybe the doctors or the nurses are giving us some, whatever it is, supposedly vaccine to protect us from coronavirus, although it's not safe-proof by any means. Tens of thousands of people who've been double dose injected have died since they were double dosed. So it's not foolproof by any means. No way. It's called a fallible soldier. We take shelter of fallible soldiers, thinking we will be protected. This is the fallacy of this material world. We think we're safe. We are not safe. There is only safety is at the lotus feet of Krishna. We may have to do this, we may have to do that, but ultimately, nothing can protect us other than Krishna. If he wants to kill us, Krishna, Mare Krishna Rakeke, Rake Krishna Mare Ke. There's nothing anyone can do. And if he wants to save us, there's nothing anyone can do to kill us. Simple as that. It rests in the hands of the Lord, not in our hands. We do our best, use our intelligence, but ultimately we depend upon Krishna. So most people, unfortunately, despite Bhagavatam describes them, Deha Pachakala Tradishu Atmasanyas Satsati, despite being sufficiently experienced, still we think that we can protect ourselves in this material world from inevitable, whatever, disease or death according to karma. We cannot do it. We get trapped up in this myriad of ideas of thinking we can, if we do this, when this, we do that, we counter that by this, we counter that by that, creating our own problems, and then we have to create something to solve the problems. And people have forgotten what human life is. Become like zombies, robots programmed by televisions and Facebooks and all these inventions of this Kali Yuga and all the various other education systems and whatever you name it. Everything is basically just dulling the consciousness of the living entity, barely able to conceive of anything beyond material existence. Even that is becoming less and less aware or alive. So we're going to hear now something very sweet and sublime. Kutama Shloka Gunanavada. Pastimes of the Lord. And we've been reading the last 2 or 3 weeks, reading the wonderful pastime of Damodara Lila. So I think this is the last Sunday of Kartik. I think so. We may carry on next Sunday anyway, or we may not carry on next Sunday anyway. We'll see. Today we're going to enter into the actual binding pastime. We need to be bound up by these pastimes. Bound up. We may wear a mask to, so say, protect us from the virus, whatever that is, or we may not, whatever. But similarly, we can protect ourselves from without a question of doubt. You could say that it's not even a virus; it's an all-pervasive, you say, pandemic of Maya. It's everywhere. To protect us from that, the only protection is Krishna, and our protection is hearing and chanting about Krishna, to absorb our hearts in hearing and chanting about Krishna. So let us now begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So I don't know where we left off last week, but we're somewhere. This is, I'm taking it up from, let's see. I'm taking it up from the 10th canto, chapter 9, text 15. We may have read it last year, I don't know. But anyway, we're going to read from 15. I'm just going to read the English because it'll be very long otherwise. So try to listen carefully. If you do have your Srimad Bhagavatams, you might even want to follow on the Bhagavatam or on mobile or something. Make use of these modern inventions. When Mother Yasoda was trying to bind the offending child, even offense comes from Krishna. She saw that the binding rope was short by a distance, the width of 2 fingers. Thus she brought another rope to join it. So this is, Prabhupada describes how this, you can't tie Krishna, he's unlimited, inconceivable, immeasurable. cannot be bound by any material endeavor. No scientific research, no speculation, no material advancement, no efforts by Ravana, no way anybody can bind Krishna actually. He's only bound by the pure love of his devotees. So in the next verse, what does Prabhupada say? But let's read the purport a little bit. Okay. So now Krishna exhibited another vibhuti. He's already killed a few demons. Or display of potency in Mother Yasoda. He said, unless I agree, you cannot bind me. Everything depends on the will of the Lord. Krishna desired to show, you cannot bind me. Thus, although Mother Yasoda, in her attempt to bind Krishna, added one rope after another, ultimately she was a failure. We can try whatever we like, but ultimately, in one sense, it's not a failure in one sense. It's an endeavor for Krishna. We can't really succeed without the will of the Lord. But the real success is our endeavor, not necessarily the result, in sense of what it appears like. It's like on book distribution. The real success is the sincere endeavor. It's not the results. So many books distributed and so on. That's good for the people who receive it. But from our side, it's our sincere endeavor. Sometimes like Krishna may allow one to distribute many books, but it doesn't necessarily mean that our consciousness is therefore of a more elevated nature. We may be proud, we may be whatever. Some other mood may be there. Pride particularly, of course. So what does Prabhupada say? When Krishna agreed, however, only then was she successful. And Krishna agreed. However, in other words, one must be in a transcendental love with Krishna. But that does not mean that one can control Krishna. When Krishna is satisfied with one's devotional service, he does everything himself. He arranges everything himself. He reveals more and more to the devotee as the devotee advances in service. So I go on with the next verse. The new rope also was short by a measurement of 2 fingers. It's pretty inconceivable when you're tying one rope and then you tie another rope and still it's short. Same, Krishna looks the same, the mortar looks the same. But still, Mother Yasoda can't tie Krishna. She's tied the rope to the mortar and she's adding more rope to tie around Krishna's belly, but it's still too short. What's going on here? Am I dreaming? Is Krishna getting fatter? Are the ropes shrinking? What's the answer here? The new rope was also short, and when another rope was joined to it, it was still 2 fingers too short. As many ropes as she joined, all of them failed. Their shortness could not be overcome. Thus, Mother Yasoda joined whatever ropes were available in the household, but still she failed in her attempt to bind Krishna. In fact, she also got ropes, it said. The neighboring gopis, they also brought ropes. So many ropes, you can't imagine how many ropes. Still too short. All the ropes in the household and the neighboring households, still too short. Mother Yasoda's friends, the elderly gopis, smiling and enjoying the fun. Or similarly, Mother Yasoda, although laboring in that way, was also smiling. In the material world, you will probably become angry if such a thing were to happen. Frustrated, huh? Maybe angry. What's going on here? What's wrong? What's happening? Normal response, something like that. Help! I'm bewildered. I don't know what's going on. maybe bewilderment, anger. Mother Yasoda is smiling. She may also have a tinge of those emotions, but it's in a relationship with Krishna. All the ropes. This incident, Prabhupada says, was wonderful because Krishna was only a small child with small hands. To bind him should have required only a rope not more than 2 feet long. All the ropes in the house combined together might have been hundreds of feet long. So they're about 200 meters sometimes, you see a figure. He wasn't, because Krishna had just shown his one aspect of his universal form to his mother, which in one sense we could say it displays his unlimited nature. But that's not the form which Mother Yasoda wants to see or is seeing. But still, Krishna was impossible to bind, for all the ropes together were still too short. All her efforts combined may appear to be a lot, but they're not enough to bind Krishna. The secret is here. Naturally, Mother Yasoda and her gopi friends thought, how is this possible? Seeing this funny affair, all of them were smiling. The first rope was short by measurement, the width of 2 fingers, and after the second rope was added, still 2 fingers too short. If the shortness of all the ropes were added together, it must have amounted to the width of hundreds of fingers. Certainly this was astonishing. This was another exhibition of Krishna's inconceivable potency to his mother and his mother's friends. Krishna is giving so much pleasure. He's a reservoir of pleasure. Even in frustrated situations like this, the devotee's pleasure is increasing unendingly. And Krishna's pleasure is increasing unendingly. Ever increasing pleasure. Because of Mother Yasoda's very hard labor, her whole body became covered with perspiration, and the flowers and comb were falling from her hair. When Child Krishna saw his mother thus fatigued, he became merciful and agreed to be bound. Only, as we heard earlier, only when Krishna agrees, okay, you can bind me. I allow it. From there, being delivered from this material world, Prabhupada writes, by your will alone can they be delivered. By your will, they have come under the influence of the modes of nature. By your will, they can be. In other words, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. This is a nice meditation. Ultimately, whatever's happening has the sanction of the Lord, be it what it may according to karma. Yes, the demons also are, in one sense, are being served or facilitated by the Lord, providing them with various demoniac, nefarious opportunities to exploit. And according to karma, others are exploited. When Mother Yasoda and the other ladies finally saw that Krishna, although decorated with many bangles and other jeweled ornaments, could not be bound with all the ropes available in the house, they decided that Krishna was so fortunate that he could not be bound by any material condition. Thus they gave up the idea of binding him, but in competition between Krishna and his devotee, Krishna sometimes agrees to be defeated. Thus Krishna's internal energy, Yogamaya, was brought to work, and Krishna agreed to be bound by Mother Yasoda. Jai. Very well. Next verse. Oh, Maharaj Parikshit, this entire universe with its great exalted demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Indra is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet the Supreme Lord has one transcendental attribute. He comes under the control of his devotees. This is now exhibited by Krishna in this pastime. This is one of the key verses in the Sanskrit. It's called Bricha Vasyata, controlled by his devotees. He becomes subordinate. Transcendental quality of becoming subordinate to his servitor or devotee. Some people want to merge into the Brahman, become one with God. But for a pure devotee, one becomes greater than God in a sense because a pure devotee can control the Lord with his love. Being greater than merging into the Brahma Jyoti, far greater. Immeasurably greater. But even from a mundane perspective, one can understand that a devotee becomes the controller of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore he's greater. So that's amazing. This is one of the key points of this whole pastime. The pastimes of Krishna, this pastime of Krishna is very difficult to understand, but devotees can understand it. It's therefore said, Darshiyam tadvidam loka atmano bhaktavachyatam. The Lord displays the transcendental attribute of coming under the control of his devotees. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Eko Pyasora Chaitam Jagadanda Kotim Yachaktirasti Jagadanda Chayadadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Adipurusham Tamam Bhajami. By his one plenary portion as Paramatma, the Lord controls innumerable universes with all of their demigods, yet he agrees to be controlled by a devotee. He's controlling all the countless universes by an expansion of the Lord, a plenary portion, tiny plenary portion of the Supreme Lord is controlling all the universes, and he's still. And Prabhupada gives the example of, what was his name? I've forgotten, Gladstone, I think, the Prime Minister of England, when one dignitary came one time to see him in his office, parliamentary office, maybe in Downing Street or something, I don't know, but somewhere. And he was waiting and waiting, and the secretary said that you just keep waiting, he's busy right now. There was no sign of anything, and the dignitary, politician who came to see him became a little bit impatient. What's going on there? Hours are passing by, nothing's happening. What is so important? So he took his chances. He glanced in through the crack in the door, and he saw Mr. Gladstone, Prime Minister of England, on the floor on all fours as if he was a horse. And on his back was his grandson. He's going around the room, and his grandson is beating him and saying, "Gee up, gee up, gee up." Prime Minister of England, gee up. This is even the material sense of the word. It gives the example of, you could say, of something very much more pleasing than the big responsibility of being Prime Minister and all the big dignitaries you have to deal with. But relating with his grandson was much more important at that point of time. The same thing we could say in relationship with Krishna. Taking full shelter of Krishna is the most purposeful and important thing in our lives. And Krishna will arrange everything. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Mother Yasoda is not a question if she surrendered to Krishna. She is personification of surrender to Krishna. And not in the sense we may take it as being a little kind of like almost like forced submission or something. Not like that. Her surrender is because she has no other thought in her mind other than the pleasure of Krishna. As we heard last week, everything in the household was simply for the pleasure of Krishna. Nothing could exist in that household if it didn't bring pleasure to Krishna. The spiritual world is like that. No one can enter the spiritual world unless they're 100% bringing pleasure to Krishna. There's no room for this mixed idea in the spiritual realm. On the progressive path of devotional service, there may be some room for mixed, we could say a certain stage is mixed devotional service, but that is not the goal. The goal is unalloyed service. It's the subject matter being manifested here by Mother Yasoda. I'm going to jump down a bit here. Purport. Krishna, okay, nonetheless, Krishna steals butter like one who is poverty-stricken. He has everything, he's the source of everything. Why on earth is he stealing butter? It is so powerful. Lost my spot. Nonetheless, here it is. Nonetheless, he steals butter like one who is poverty-stricken. Yamaraj, the controller of all living entities, fears the order of Krishna. Yet Krishna is afraid of his mother's stick. Another contradiction. Everyone is afraid of Krishna. He's fearless. But here he seems to be contradicting that. He's afraid of Mother Yasoda's stick. Just like an animal is afraid of a stick. We mentioned that maybe last week. A little boy in India has a little stick and there's a big bull or buffalo, and they're afraid of the stick. Little kid. And it may not even be a very powerful stick, but it represents, a punishment, admonishment. Nobody likes to be punished. The rod of chastisement. So here we see, and that's one thing. The other thing here is these conditions listed. Like devotional service to Krishna is. Yamaraj is afraid. He fears the orders of Krishna, but Krishna appears to be afraid. It's a contradiction. We just heard one with the ropes. It seems, from a physical perspective, contradictory. These contradictions cannot be understood by one who is not a devotee. But a devotee can understand how powerful is unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. It is so powerful that Krishna can be controlled by an unalloyed devotee. This Britya Vashyata does not mean that he is under the control of the servant. Rather, he is under the control of the servant's pure love. This is also, basically speaking, to the degree that this genuine love will also conquer a person by love. The love of the child, the mother, so binding. When a person feels you love them, animals the same, when they feel you love them, they generally reciprocate. And so Krishna is reciprocating. He is under the control of the love. It is said that Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna. Arjuna ordered him, Senayor ubayor madhye ratang stapyaye machita. My dear Krishna, you have agreed to be my charioteer and to execute my orders. Place my chariot between the two armies of soldiers. Krishna immediately executed the order, and therefore one may argue that Krishna is not independent, but this is one's ajnan, ignorance. Krishna is always fully independent. When he becomes subordinate to his devotees, this is a display of Ananda Chinmaya Ras, the humor of transcendental qualities that increases his transcendental pleasure. Everyone worships Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he sometimes desires to be controlled by someone else. Such a controller can be no one else but a pure devotee. A pure devotee can conquer Krishna, control Krishna. Next verse, neither Lord Brahma, nor Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from the material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yasoda. What a comparison. Lord Shiva, Lakshmi Devi, Lord Brahma. Mother Yasoda was in a far higher category than any of them, although Lord Shiva sometimes said Vaishnavan, Shambhu. He's the topmost Vaishnava in a certain level. Maybe the topmost in that particular level of Vaishnavas. But on the highest platform, he's nowhere near the loving devotion. Mother Yasoda, same with Lakshmi Devi, she can't enter into the Madhurya ras or spontaneous ras of Goloka, because she's eternal, of course, eternal expansion of the Lord, expands from the Lord. He's an eternal expansion also. So she can't change her designation to be reverentially worshipping her Lord. Just can't enter into the mood of these bridge buses, Ragatmikas, his eternal associates. His mood is simply driven by raga, by loving affection, nothing else. So Brahma, Shiva, none of them could get that opportunity. Even the goddess of fortune could not get it. So it's an interesting comment there, Prabhupada. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit was surprised, thinking, what did Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj do in their previous lives by which they got such a great opportunity? The opportunity to be the affectionate father and mother of Krishna. What did they do? In this verse, there are three negative pronouncements. No, no, no. When anything is uttered three times, do it, do it, do it. One should rather understand that this is meant to indicate great stress on a fact. In this verse, we find no labore, no labore, no labore. It sounds like not by laboring. Yet Mother Yasoda is in the supermost exalted position, and thus Krishna has become completely subordinate to her. There are different types of liberation. The exalted position of prema is declared by Lord Chaitanya as Prema Pumata Mahan, and Mother Yasoda naturally acts in such an exalted position in loving affairs. She is therefore a Nitya Siddha devotee, an expansion of Krishna's Ladini potency, his potency to enjoy transcendental bliss through expansions, who are special devotees. Ananda Moya, Asiti, Ananda Chinmaya Vras, Bhakti Bhavitabi. Such devotees are not sadhana siddhas. Sadhana siddhas are those who attain a position by practice. There are three ways of attaining that position or perfection. Sadhana siddha by practice. And then we have, Kripa siddha by mercy, and Nitya siddha, eternally situated. Mother Yasoda is Nitya siddha. But Parikshit Maharaj first said, how did she come to this position? How can we come to a position? Can't become Mother Yasoda, but something similar. The mood of Mother Yasoda, that loving affection. How can we come there? Is it by sadhana? No. Are we Nitya siddhas? No. So then what is it? It's Kripa siddha. It's simply mercy. We may endeavor. Prabhupada one time indicated that his mercy, which entitles us to have this, maybe this opportunity, are the instructions he gives. So our surrender is how much we hold on, how much we embrace those instructions as our life and soul, putting them into practice. And then by the mercy of Krishna, mercy of Guru and Krishna, Krishna may reveal everything. We may be able to enter into that realm of a Nitya Siddha Vladini Shakti. We may be enter into it by their mercy. Otherwise, we have no access whatsoever, no eligibility. So how did this happen? Of course, this is for our sake. We hear that Dara, Drona and Dara, previous lifetime, or in the case of Krishna and Sutapa, in the case of Vasudeva, they perform various austerities to become the mother and father of the Lord. In the case of Drona and Dara, it wasn't so much that, it was just a pervasive desire, pure-hearted desire, attraction, complete attraction for this service to the Lord. Why? Well, it's explained, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in various places in his commentaries. Sometimes we think that somebody becomes Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj, or becomes Devaki and Vasudeva. No. Nobody can become. They're eternally the mother and father of Krishna in his various moods. Expansions of the same personalities in one sense, but in different moods. So how is this happening? Well, Vaishnava Chakravarti explains, very simple, that for the sake of the pastimes and for the sake of teaching others, the Lord's eternal associates, those who are of the internal energy, they're not Jiva Tattva, they're Shakti Tattva, they're the Lord's internal energies, expansions of Ladini Shakti in this case. They also can expand themselves along with the Lord in various pastimes, taking on different roles according to the need. So Nanda and Yasoda expanded themselves with Drona and Dara. And when Nanda and Yasoda appeared in this world, those expansions again entered back into the original form. So this is what it means to become. It doesn't mean that Nanda and Yasoda weren't existing before, something like that. They're eternally existing as mother and father. Narada Muni, these are eternal associates of the Lord. They expand in various ways, and then the expansion enters back in again. Same with Prishni and Sutapa. And they entered back into their original forms as Vasudeva, Devaki and Vasudeva. Very mystical, secret, very, very rarely understood. Because they, by austerities, or by affectionate desire, or whatever, yes, it's also there to show us. But ultimately, it is their own very self who's just returning back into their own original form. We will go on. They're not sadhana siddhas, they're not even kripa siddhas, they're nitya siddhas, they're eternally situated. They just appear sometimes, as we also hear even from those devotees who are maybe not on that level as Ragatmikas, but great devotees of the Lord also appear in this world in various ways, and they may be Uttama Bhagavats, whether coming to that platform or appearing in this world from that plane. But they act as Madhyamadikaras for the sake of preaching, for the sake of why they'll be in this world otherwise, for the sake of trying to help others to reconnect. They take the role of Madhyam Adhikaras. Middle devotees appear to be discriminating. That's only for the sake of missionary work or teaching others the path to follow, those who are conditioned souls. The next verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Mother Yasoda, is accessible to devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service, but he's not as easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by severe austerity and penance, or to those who consider the body the same as the self. It's not available to them, and we oftentimes quote this verse, Advaita Machuta Manada Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Pusham Navyognam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhaktvam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. The Lord has unlimited expansions, unlimited, but he's not understood by those who study the Vedas, by those who perform great austerities, yogis, and so on, only by one who is a pure devotee of the Lord, whose eyes are tinged with the sound of love. The Lord reveals himself. Cannot be seen by others, only by pure devotional service. Because our goal is to cultivate pure bhakti, pure devotion. This is the highest pinnacle of the quest for happiness. Oh, a pure devotee is not even thinking, oh, now I want to be happy. He's thinking, how can I see Krishna happier? Not how I can become happy. Sometimes we say, chant and be happy. So at this stage, we're more like thinking, what makes me happy? Not necessarily it makes Krishna happy. On the transcendental platform, of course, being happy does bring pleasure to Krishna. On this platform, it depends on the attitude, whether it brings pleasure to Krishna or not, and what the causes of that are. Usually there are self-centered causes based on our conditional situation. And when one comes to the pure platform, there is no conditional situation. One is happy to see Krishna. One is happy to see Krishna happy. One is happy, everything about Krishna makes you happy. Seeing other devotees serving Krishna, seeing other devotees happy because that makes Krishna happy, therefore it makes me happy. Like this mood. And even in our own experience, sometimes when we see someone progress, we may not feel so good. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Because depending on how mature we are in spiritual life. But actually, if we see someone progressing, we should be very happy because Krishna is becoming happier. And not even just from that perspective, but if they're progressing, if we are fortunate to get their association, it will help us to progress. But unfortunately, Mr. Envy sometimes pokes his nose in there, and we try to belittle their so-called advancement or try to show off or something unfortunate like that. Surrender unto me. It's by all the Vedas, 15th chapter by Gita Prabhupada calls all the Vedas am I to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedas, knower of the Vedas. They come from him. Everything comes from him. So therefore, karmis, jnanis, yogis, and saintly persons, in one sense, they're all seeking Krishna. They just don't know it. And even our aspiration for material pleasure, material wealth, indirectly is a search for Krishna, because happiness comes from Krishna. And this material world is an expansion, although it's inferior expansion, material energy in one. Still, nonetheless, is an expansion. So our endeavor to try to get happiness from this expansion, in one sense, is also trying to get happiness from Krishna. But it's done illegitimately, illicitly, just like a thief. Everybody wants money. Who doesn't want money? The thief does it illegitimately. Others do it by legitimate means, so-called. But the thief does it illegitimately. He steals, tries to steal it. So people in this world are trying to get happiness, but it's illegitimate, because that which they're trying to get happiness from is the property of Krishna. They're stealing Krishna property, at least in mentality. The mentality of theft is there. Thinking any one of us who thinks this is mine is in the bracket of a criminal. The very thought itself is a criminal thought. It may come to us for a lot of time. Because we're trying to reform. We're trying to reform from being criminal to becoming conscious. Law-abiding citizen, you could say. The only law in Goloka Vrindavan is love and rules and regulations. That may be in the beginning, in the Reformation stage. As with a prisoner, there's a Reformation stage. Drug addict, Reformation stage. But you don't necessarily stay in the Reformation stage forever. The idea is that reform actually takes place and one automatically behaves as a civilized person or as a person not addicted to drugs anymore. Hopefully. Let's see. Let's go on to the next verse, a few more verses. While Mother Yasoda was very busy with household affairs, the Supreme Lord Krishna observed twin trees known as Jamalarjuna, which in a former millennium had been the demigod sons of Kuvara. This is another fascinating pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the commentaries on this particular pastime, there's some amazing, let's say, revelations therein of this interaction between Krishna, the twin Arjuna trees, Nalakuvara, Manigriva, and Mother Yasoda, Balaram, Rohini, Nanda Maharaj, and so on. Some amazing turns and twists of loving exchange, which are, say, very, and sometimes seem again, sometimes contradictory, perplexing, but full of rasa, full of nectar, full of sweet nectar, if heard submissively from the right source. So we're going to turn that off for now, and we'll go back to that a little bit later. It's like another topic, another subject matter. And what I will actually just finish the last verse, because it's the last verse of the chapter. In their former birth, these two sons, known as Nalakuvara and Manigriva, were extremely opulent and fortunate. But because of pride and false prestige, they did not care about anyone, and thus Narada Muni cursed them to become trees. Ooh, let's see. If we become proud, what may happen? Become a tree. And that whole pastime is described in the next chapter, the Jamala Arjuna trees. I don't know when we're going to talk about that one. We'll see. I'll have to look at my calendar. What's the date today? 14th, 21st. Okay, we'll talk about it next week on the 21st of November. The pastime of the twin Arjuna trees. But now I'm going to go now to the Gopal Champu. We read from it last week. I was going to read from something else, but I didn't get there yet. So this is the Gopal Champu, which is a commentary in a sense of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam by Sri Goswami. There are many commentaries. Except for the commentary, it's another vision of these pastimes, another perspective in some cases. Every situation, you take any situation, even in our daily lives, two people will see it differently, but they're both correct in a sense, although it looks different. They're both in a sense correct. Like if you look at somebody, like a vivid example, if you look at them from the right side or the left side, they may look a little different, or front and back, above and below. But you're not wrong in the way of seeing it. Even if you see the whole body, certain things will be more, say, emphasized to different people when they see somebody or something. It's natural. So it just gives another further understanding, a further explanation. So each acharya has a slightly different, same thing going on, but slightly different perspective. That just embellishes the overall pastime. They're not rigid, these pastimes have unlimited variety of aspects. So let's see what Jiva Goswami says here. Where we get to last week, she was, Krishna was running places he thought she couldn't find him. Try to cover here. When she began tying him up, he became so angry that he breathed with a hissing sound. Krishna called out, "Rohini, Rohini, where have you gone with Balaram? Because you are not here. She is binding me up. Please come quickly." Because Rohini was far away, she could not hear. But other women who were neighbors, who had previously scolded him, heard his cries and came. They scolded him previously because he was stealing butter and stuff from their storerooms. They laughed and said, has he done something in your house? Because Mother Yasoda was saying, she wasn't sure of believing all these things, that if he does something wrong in my house, then I will know, then I would punish him then. So now they're coming back at us. So now he's done something wrong in your house? So that she would remember her own previous words. Ignoring their words, she took an old string from her hair, slightly different interpretation. She took an old string from her hair and began binding him around the waist to the mortar near the outer door, just as Rudra's followers bound up Daksha to teach him a lesson, but the string was 2 fingers too short. She took another silk string from her hair and tied the two together, but still the string was 2 fingers too short. Even when the other women gave the churning rope, She could not tie him up. Just as a cloud touching a far mountain appears not to touch it, so the rope around his waist appeared to be 2 fingers too short. Transcendental, dimensional things going on here. The other women laughed and said, "Oh, Yasoda, we told you previously that he makes the original thief, Kalpalaka, tremble by his great power of bewilderment." Thieves, they try to bewilder us. You know, I don't know if you've ever, maybe it's not so subtle, but if you've ever been on a train in India, for instance, a crowded train, and how the thieves get away with it. They distract our attention, or maybe even start a conversation with us, one of them, and the other one, meanwhile, is pilfering from our pocket or a money belt or something or another, because we're distracted. We're distracted. So thieves do that. They distract the attention in a different way, then strike. Make sure we're looking somewhere else when they come in. So Krishna is expert at that. He shows himself to be a thief, taking joy in eating stolen goods. Exciting, huh? She said, Maria Soda said, he was born at a wrong time. Midnight. Huh? Thus he does not know good from bad. But I think you have been put under a spell, since internally you are prejudiced against him, but externally you show yourself differently. Laughing, they said, falling at your feet, we swear that we are not under some amazing spell. She then began to think, according to Garga's words, the Lord's powers are covering this boy, and he does not know what is happening. She repeatedly brought churning ropes from the women's houses to see the limits of astonishment and tried to bind him up, but found no way to do so. Attempting to bind her son, she found no end in this endless task. Perspiration flowed all over her limbs and her hair became loose. As much as Krishna made efforts to show his stubbornness, Yasoda's attempts became useless, as if under the influence of bad planets. Sometimes we think that when we're trying for something, it's just not happening. Oh, maybe it's the planets. It's my ill fortune, it's the planets. Well, maybe it's Krishna's arrangement also. We sometimes look for a material reason, blaming something or somebody. It's my karma. It is understood that when his mind became moved by her fatigue, he became bound up with the first 2 ropes alone. All the other ropes became unnecessary. Interesting. The performer of actions, Yogamaya, acting according to his desires, created this incident for his mother, which appeared like some illusion. Yogamaya performed such acts daily. Having tied up Krishna, she lengthened the rope with other ropes and tied him to the mortar. Having tied him up and showing harshness to him to teach him, his mother went to do her household chores with the other women who were laughing. She placed other boys around him to protect him. When the women left, he pretended to cry for a while. Then he became joyful at the prospect of moving the mortar to many places. He's thinking, now I will enjoy another pastime. My mother has tied me up to this mortar. Though he was tied up with great faith, increased by being surrounded by the boys, he played with them while smiling, moved the mortar bit by bit while they also laughed. He then had them go to the empty houses of the women and steal the butter hanging in pots. Whew, what a thief. He can't do it himself. So now he's organizing other thieves to do it for him. Dear me. Transcendentally speaking, you could say this is the method of spreading Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada himself was spreading Krishna consciousness as Circumstances changed, not just because of old age, other circumstances were there. Then he engaged all of his disciples to go out and preach Krishna consciousness, to steal the hearts of the conditioned souls, to some degree at least. Steal their money, but somehow or another to bring them, steal them away from Mahamaya. But he did not desire to free himself from the mortar using his hands or any instrument. He didn't care about freeing himself. He was enjoying another pastime now. And this is all his arrangement. So he was using in order to give joy by pulling the mortar. So many pastimes are unfolding here. So many pastimes. One of the reasons it's stated that he didn't actually, it's interesting. No, Nalagriva and Manigriva, cursed by Narada, of course, have been standing there in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj for thousands of years. It wasn't Nanda's courtyard, but that place, which later on became Nanda's courtyard, they've been standing there for thousands of years. And even Krishna, as a little baby boy, saw those trees many a time. He never cared to deliver those trees. They were being punished by the curse of Narada, but for their own benefit, the fortunate trees were now witnessing Krishna's pastimes. And they were bound up in the form of a tree. They couldn't move. They were tied down, punished. So when Krishna was put in a similar position, punished by Mother Yasoda, tied up, bound down, locked down, locked down. So Nalakavara and Manigriva were locked down for a long time. Social distancing. They were a little apart from each other, not too far. They were locked down for a long time. So Krishna, when he experienced what it was like to be locked down, to be bound up, then he felt compassion on Nalakavara and Manigriva and said, okay, now is the time. And so combined with all the other wonderful aspects of this pastime, this one aspect of it was the deliverance of Nalakavara and Manigriva, which we're here, Krishna willing, we'll hear it next week. So I'm going to finish there now for today. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to send in a chat if you so desire. Krishna, Krishna. I think we have one there. Hare Krishna from Happy Devotee Akadashi in advance. So Misham Haribol. Thank you. Yeah, well, some people are observing Akadashi today, some tomorrow. We've got an interesting scenario here. Today is Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj's Tirabab, but it's not Akadashi. It's probably both tomorrow for you. But for us, tomorrow's Akadashi, two Akadashis this year on our calendar. Today is also, but tomorrow is the observed Akadashi. Don't ask me all these things. It's all to do with astrology and astronomy. But the Titi is when the moon, sun, whatever, when they cross at certain times, and depends what time they cross. So tomorrow we're observing Akadashi. Thank you for that. And we have something here from Gauridas Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Does Krishna award the parenthood to Nanda Yasoda? Vasudeva Devi became only life after life, or could any other elevated personality in the mood of Vatsalya Ras could achieve Krishna as their son? Nothing is impossible for the Lord, but not in this particular mood. This is the eternal mood of Nanda and Yasoda is exclusive. Same with Vasudeva and Devaki, but in a similar mood. And in those particular pastimes, we hear that even Putana received a position like Mother Yasoda, but it wasn't Mother Yasoda. What it means is that she became a nurse in a little distant area of Braj, but she became a nurse and had some opportunity there to also, as a nurse, may also look after the child, but not in the same way as the actual mother, although similar, but not the same. So in some other pastimes or some other ways, we hear that Krishna may appear in various forms to reciprocate the loving exchanges of his devotees. As far as an aspiring or a jiva is concerned, generally speaking, that will not be the case. Although the Lord's expansions are eternal, and he has his eternal mother and father, but one can have that opportunity to serve the Lord in that particular mood of the particular mother and father of that particular expansion. If such mother and father are manifested, one may have the opportunity to develop that Vatsalya Bhava. But the jiva, up to a certain point, it cannot be compared to the Shakti Tattvas, the eternal parishads of the Lord. Their love is the source of that Vatsalya Ras, it's the source. So we can enter into that river of Vatsalya Bhava, but we cannot become the source. We can enter into the river and feel the effects of the source, the same, you could say, emotional in a small way. We're Jiva Tattva. So Prabhupada said to aspire to become the mother and father of Krishna, as Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj is Mayavad philosophy. We aspire to serve. The Vatsalya Ras is the mood of serving Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj in their service to Krishna. It's not that, okay, I'm here now, it's my turn. If you go for a holiday, Nanda, it's my day now. No. On your bike, Nanda. No, nothing like that. It's the mood of simply wanting to assist Nanda Maharaj and Yasoda in their loving service to Krishna. This is Vatsalya Bhava. Let's see where we are now. Anything else? Doesn't look like it. Wow, it's wonderful to see the devotees all over the world. And we see Joe, back to Joe, as in, many of you don't know Joe, he was assisting me for many months here at New Mayapur. I don't know how he felt, but we sent him out on book distribution. And now so many hundreds and thousands of people in France are receiving this, at least the beginning of their golden path, their glorious path back to Godhead. Receiving Prabhupada's books. What a fortune to be an instrument to distribute these books. So fortunate. So fortunate. And soon the Prabhupada book marathon will be coming, huh? Maybe another 2 weeks, I don't know. I think about 2 weeks' time it starts. The Prabhupada book marathon. So we take advantage of that glorious opportunity to dive deeply into this Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivan, become a Bodhidharma, most dear, merciful personality, distributing the message of Godhead as the only relief. People may not see it like that at all. They can't even imagine such a thing existing. But this is what's going on. As a drunken person cannot see things clearly, or a dreaming person cannot be aware of what's going on around them. People in an intoxicated, dream-like state, they can't see what's going on at all. Totally illusioned. All they're seeing is through their mundane eyes, a few little things in front of them, a few little sounds through their ears, a few sniffs through the noses, few touches here and there, but nothing. It's just like deep buried underground. You can hardly, but you get, that's all you know. This is all they know. They have no idea that this is nothing. This is not even a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a billionth. It's nothing compared to the unlimited realm, the spiritual realm. Looking at some grumpy people on the street, miserable weather. Oh God, the price has gone up again. Oh, I can't afford it. Looking at some window at some, whatever, rejected remnants in the windows. some tin cans going along the road. And we think this is beautiful. Ooh, if only I could get that. Not even childlike. Just most unfortunate ignorance. So devotees, we may not even know it, but the mercy which comes from the devotee passing on this lifeline is indescribable. Indescribable. Hare Krishna. We have another question from Rasika. In the meantime, Hare Krishna. Gopal Champu, Madhukanta, and Snigdhakanta are narrating Krishna's pastimes in Goloka. They were the Jamalarjuna trees? They were? Is that a question or a statement? However, in Bhagavatam, it appears that they, upon delivery, went back to the heavenly planets. Are these eternal associates enacting this role? Thank you for this. I will do some research on that. Maybe you can give the answer to that, because I'm sure probably everyone out there knows that already. I'm just a fool, just groveling in the dust here. The Jamalarjuna trees, sons of Kuvera, Snigdhakanta and Nalakuvara. Please just quickly give that reference where you, if you have it, where that is stated that they are Nalakuvara and Manigriva, or whatever. Well, life is eternal, and for sure, anyone taking part in Krishna's pastimes, even the demons, many of the demons attain very intimate positions in the spiritual world, who attacked Vrindavan, and so on. We can see even in Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha's case, many times these personalities are eternal associates of the Lord. Nalakuvara and Manigriva have a very significant role in Krishna's pastimes. There's no doubt about that. So they're not just ordinary drunken kids, and who got the mercy of Narada Muni. What we're seeing here is that an example of what happens if we are spoiled, drunken kids, disrespectful, is that this is the sort of thing, if we're lucky, that will happen to us. Now, we may not have the opportunity to take birth in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, because they weren't ordinary personalities, whether they were Snigdhakanta and Madhukanta, I'd like to see a reference to that if possible. Maybe you've heard it in a lecture or something. There are so many unlimited stories you find in the various shastras about various personalities who appear in Krishna Lila and why they appear in different ways as demons. Something in a previous lifetime they offended a Vaishnava or something happened and they had got cursed to take birth as a demon or something or another. But then, realizing their mistake, they beg for forgiveness. Okay, you'll be a demon and you will be killed by Krishna and you'll be liberated, or whatever it is like that. And even if now Nalakuvara and Manigriva, as you point out here, they went back to their role in the heavenly planets, again, we have to understand that the eternal associates of the Lord for different pastimes can expand themselves. They're not limited to you're either this or that. They can perform, for the pleasure of the Lord, they also can expand themselves in various ways to enact various pastimes simultaneously. And not the nature, generally speaking, of the Jiva Tattva, but the Shakti Tattva or the eternal associates emanating from the Lord's internal potencies can do like that by the will of the Lord, by their own will. This is not at all impossible. Not at all impossible. Simultaneously. They can be performed, if it is their duty to perform various activities in the heavens, and simultaneously to be the narrators in the court of Nanda Maharaj, or in the assembly of Nanda Maharaj, to recite Krishna's pastimes before the assembly. That can go on simultaneously, no problem whatsoever. The expansions. One would understand in this case that Snigdhakanta and Madhukanta would be the eternal. As far as Vrindavan is concerned, it's not that they became those, and that one of their expansions would be Nalakuvara and Manigriva, if they have others expansions. But I would appreciate the reference to that if you can find it. So yes, they do enact various roles, these eternal associates, sometimes to such an extent as we see. In the case of Jai and Vijay, they became such demons. They were completely averse to the Lord, and not only that, but they were completely oblivious, unaware of their actual positions. They were completely covered. And why? Well, because how could they fully perform their designated roles as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha if they were thinking, wait a minute, I'm the Lord's gatekeeper. I can't fight with him. I'm a devotee, even though I'm born in this dog demoniac body. You have a little example, a little like that with Chitraketu when he fought with Indra. He was aware. But in the case of Hiranyakashipu, there's no thought, well, actually, I'm a devotee. What am I doing here? Kill me, please, quickly, so I can get out of here. He wasn't thinking like that. He was thinking, I'm going to kill you quickly so I can take your post. He was really in the mood of being a demon. It's like being in a drama. Some of you are probably actors. If you're in a drama, the first thing you have to do is put your designation completely aside and fully identify with your dramatic designation. Otherwise, it won't be effective. If one's role in the drama is Ravana, you've got to meditate on being a Ravana, the mood, everything about him, reciprocate everything, the way you react to situations, your expressions, your mood, your thoughts, everything's Ravana conscious. I don't know if you think that's a good thing to play that role. I thought we were here to be Krishna conscious, or Ravana conscious, but that's your service. That's the service to Krishna for Krishna's pleasure. Just like Arjuna took the role of being an illusion, living entity for the sake of Krishna's pleasure. He would speak the Bhagavad Gita. If Arjuna was fully in his wits, there would be no Bhagavad Gita. He voluntarily accepted the position of a conditioned soul so that Krishna would speak the message of Gita. Okay. Chapter 9, text 1 and 2. Okay, I thought I read that, but I can't remember reading it. I'm not sure either missed it or it's not in my version. I don't know if I've got chapter numbers here. Chapter 8, is in the next chapter. Thank you. We haven't come to that yet. There we go. Entering Vrindavan, where is it? The next day, the assembly gathered. Nanda said, "Oh, dear Snigdhakanta, these two trees attain bodies like devatas according to their desires. What were those trees in a previous life? From where did they come? And how did they come to Vraj?" Snigdhakanta said, "These two were born from the friend of Shiva, Kuvera, lord of the Yakshas, lord of the city of Alaka. When they showed arrogance to Narada, Narada scolded them. He showed mercy to them. Though they became trees, they also became devotees of the Lord. They remained as Jamalarjuna trees near your future house in Mahavan. Attaining their planet, they became great devotees. They have revealed the results of bhakti." Now Nanda said curiously, "Please tell the story. Where are they now?" Bowing his lotus face, Snigdhakanta remained silent and glanced at Madhukanta. Nanda said, "Why are you reluctant to speak?" Snigdhakanta said with respect, "What can we say? You will come to know all of this by yourself." With a smile, Nanda said, "True. What you have said will be repetitious. By your silence, you give us the answer. By this means we can know. Anyway, you should make us happy by speaking it yourself." Snigdhakanta said, "We are the two to whom Narada gave good results and knowledge by his mercy." Hearing this, all the people headed by Nanda called them and again mingled with them happily and eagerly. Seating the two amongst them, they gazed at them. Far out. Thank you very much. Wow, marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. Of course, up to this point, they've been practically speaking, completely privy to all the pastimes, witness to the pastimes. Amazing. And there's probably a lot more to that than what's being said there. Yeah, so anyway, whatever we said so far stands. And now thank you. We have some very sweet and very, ecstatic information. Even Nanda Maharaj are asking. They never directly answered out of natural humility and shyness. Here we see the answers given. They are the two. Anigriva, Nalakuvara, the two twin Arjuna trees, became Snittakanta Madhukanta. Krishna. Jai Prabhupada. Now you're saying that the reference is at the end of the chapter. Okay, well, it looked like it's in the beginning to me. It wasn't the verses you mentioned. At the end of the chapter, I hope the chapter. Anyway, it's there somewhere. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Nectar. So we're ready to go on. Kirtan, and thank you all so very much for being there and reminding us of this glorious pastime, this glorious month, Kartik. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Follow. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I don't know who's singing or who's not. I think you're singing now. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra ki jai. Ki Damodara Rat ki jai. Kartik Rat ki jai. Damodar Mas ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gorkishore Das Babi Maharaj Tirobha Maha Mahotsav ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, all glories to all the assembled devotees. Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Haribo. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for joining us. There's a class tomorrow morning, Rasikananda Prabhu. Is that right?
Yes, everyone. Hare Krishna. Maharaj is giving an initiation class tomorrow, 15th of November, 6:30 a.m. France time. There's been a change in the timing, so I'm just sending the new message out now. And there's a change in the Zoom link, so hopefully you'll get the message in the next few minutes. Hare Krishna. 6:30 a.m. France time, 15th of November.
Well, that's a good time if you live in New Zealand. I don't know about anywhere else, but it's a good time for New Zealand. And Australia is a bit early if you're working, but you might catch it. Anyway, let's see. And if you're not working, it's a good time. Hare Krishna. That initiation is in Delhi. So if you're in Delhi, I suppose. Is that right? Yeah, have I got it right?
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah.
in Delhi, 6:30 tomorrow morning, France time. So that's about, what is that, 11 o'clock Delhi time?
Yes, Maharaj.
11 o'clock time. Probably 6:30 in the evening New Zealand time, or maybe 3:30 or 4:30 Aussie time. But whatever. Anyway, whatever it is, you can work that one out. Time is eternal. Hare Krishna. In the spiritual world, there is no control of time. Although the pastimes are there just to enact for pleasure, time appears there in the form of pastimes, but they're eternal pastimes also. It's not, oh, that's over now. That's finished. They're eternal. It's hard to imagine with our material experience, but spiritual life. Okay, glories to Srila Prabhupada. We wish you all the very best, everyone. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, let's hear a big loud Hare Bol. I have to knock a few of those little red.
Hare Bol.
Hare Bol. Hare Bol. Hare Bol. Hare Bol. Hare Bol. Hare Bol. Jai Go Premanande.
Hare Bol.